The story begins with two men talking about a monster in human form who seem to be called demon soldiers. They say that 3 days ago there was an incident in the city where 7 mages were killed, and, from what they heard, those so-called demon soldiers were responsible. His friend, worried, asks whether these demons are really strong. The old man laughs at that, saying that the word strong does not even come close to describing these monsters. And he even mentions that these creatures possess intelligence equal to or greater than that of humans and have magical power even greater than that of dragons. His companion finds this strange, since he does not understand why these monsters attacked the mages. The old man explains that, according to rumors, the demons are searching for a certain someone. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Amira slaps the MC across the face, telling him to stop harassing her, since now that he has finished healing her, he should simply let go and leave. He falls to the ground without understanding anything, and she again says that he should not keep touching her, except to heal her, and that she finds it frightening. Sotel, not understanding anything, gets up and says that he did nothing wrong and only took longer because there were 2 types of poison mixed in her body. Shiro, who is of the thief class, comments that this is going too far, but the mage asks whether he is taking the side of the healer. He replies that he did not mean that until Radion, who is a swordsman, asks them to leave it alone, but Amira asks whether he is defending an old man. He retorts that that is not the case, since he is only saying that it is a waste of time. The MC does not know what to say, and the leader tells him to leave since he has done his job and throws him a few bronze coins as payment. Sotel asks them to wait and, indignant, asks whether he will receive only those bronze coins. The swordsman makes it clear that his work is worth only that, since he merely stayed hidden in the shadows the whole time and is nothing but a burden as a healer. After saying this, they enter the tavern. Inside, they are recognized by other adventurers, who recognize the great magic swordsman and whisper that the group will soon rise to rank S because of the aura they possess. The MC, alone outside, begins to feel his wounds, as he had even forgotten about his own injuries. He starts treating himself until he looks to the side and sees the bronze coins thrown on the ground. This irritates him until he calms down and simply sits on the ground, trying to understand what he is doing with his life. He picks up the coins and, looking up, considers whether he should stop being an adventurer. However, he knows it is not that simple, since he has no other skills and is already advanced in age, so it is too late to change careers. He tries to cheer himself up somehow, because there is no point in dwelling on things that will not change, and starts walking again, deciding that he will drink all night, since saving money in his current situation is depressing. Suddenly, a purple aura appears near him, causing an intense gust of wind. Only then does he look down and realize that he has actually been struck by an attack he could not even see, and he understands that he is worse off than he imagined. The one responsible for the blow asks whether he happened to miss. Those words frighten the MC, since the presence he is feeling is not human, until he sees something on top of a house that has intense magical power and is more sinister than anything he has ever witnessed, being even superior to a rank S. The demon introduces himself as Xion, a soldier of the Demon King, and excitedly says that he has finally found the one he was looking for, and, getting straight to the point, explains to Sotel that he received orders from the Demon King to take his life. The MC looks at the entity in front of him and asks why the hell a demon soldier knows about him. He barely asks and receives another attack, but this time he manages to dodge and immediately uses his angelic healing. Xion admits to being surprised by the spell-casting speed he witnessed. Sotel thanks him for noticing that, but is attacked again right afterward, and this time is hit squarely in the stomach. The demon asks if he really intends to keep holding back, since if he keeps playing around, he will suffer an even worse death. The MC replies that he is not playing around and reflects that the demon's bloodlust is surreal, but he does not understand why he is the target of someone so powerful. Because of this, he asks what kind of joke it is for the Demon King to give a direct order to take his life when he is just a failed rank F healer. Xion becomes confused by this and asks if he truly does not know the extent of his own power, even at that age. The MC says he does not know what he is talking about, and the demon bursts into laughter, since this is truly a case of a wasted treasure. Having said that, he reveals that the so-called failed healer possesses an ability that appears once every 1,000 years and still has no awareness of it. Sotel shouts, wanting to better understand what he is saying, but it is too late, as in the blink of an eye, his head is torn off. The demon, after completing his mission, says he is relieved that the target's power was incomplete, and that, if he had left him alone, that power would eventually have become a threat. The MC, with a few seconds of consciousness left, tries to understand what happened, but the demon bids farewell, saying it was fortunate to be able to kill him in that place. Several memories pass through Sotel's mind of how he was treated like disposable trash by his team, always being left behind even while being chased by monsters. And none of his memories were good, since he was always seen with looks of disgust by his own team, and in the end, he was still unlucky enough to become the target of such a powerful demon. In his final moments, he laments having lived a shitty life. Then, elsewhere, the MC wakes up and is startled, because when he gets up, he realizes he is in another place. He tries to understand what is happening, since as far as he knows he should be dead, and wonders if he somehow came back to life, but considers that impossible. He goes to the lake and realizes that his appearance has changed, but he does not know who this boy is. At that moment, a group of young people approaches, asking if he did not die in the end. The MC turns around, and the gang says that he seemed to be dead, and that it would have been better if he had stayed that way. Sotel tries to understand whether they are enemies, and also needs more time to get his head straight. The fat guy orders him to get up already, since he was sleeping outside and needs to hurry to get ready. That phrase makes the MC consider that maybe that gang are allies. The boy grabs him by the neck and asks if he heard him and if he is still sleeping. In addition, he comments that he must have been beaten so badly that he even lost his memory and prepares to throw more punches, since that way, he will wake up for good. Only then does Sotel realize that that body has many bruises, and he laments it, since he believes that the owner of the body was in a position similar to his, and that, somehow, his soul ended up in that body. While thinking about this, he receives a punch from the fat guy, but after taking it, he gets irritated and asks if he has no manners at all. The fat guy tries to understand what is happening and does not think it is Taria, since that is not possible. The MC gathers his energy and begins to heal his body with his ability. The boys realize it is healing magic and ask where he learned it. He replies that he is no longer the so-called Taria. They knew. No sooner does he say this than the big guy strikes the tree with a blow that ends up destroying it. In addition, he says he does not know what happened, but that he should not get arrogant just because he became stronger, and everyone prepares to charge at him. Sotel says it had been a long time since she felt this angry, and thanks to Ria for allowing her to use that body, guaranteeing that she will teach everyone a lesson. First, he moves at high speed and grabs one person's head, smashing it hard against the ground. He prepares to move to the next target, and the big guy puts all his strength into his punch. But it is useless, since Sotel dodges the attack and counterattacks, landing a punch so strong that it almost makes the man vomit. The fat guy looks at the MC, trying to understand what happened to the boy, and he angrily asks if he still wants to get beaten. Brock, terrified, shouts what the hell the boy is, since until the previous day, he was nothing more than dead weight and completely useless. The MC finds this funny, since he has heard those words many times in his life. The fat guy charges with everything he has, and Sotel says that whether he is rank F or not, he is still an adventurer who has been through hell countless times, and because of that, he also advances, landing a direct hit to the boy's head. In addition, he says that wielding power without thinking is no different from a child throwing a tantrum, and he laments that even though he is a strong fat man, he cannot even defeat a rank F player. He observes everything he caused and reflects that he went a little too far against children. In addition, he feels that it was good to vent some of Taria's resentment, since, apparently, he was an agile young man blessed with good physical condition. However, he does not understand how he managed to use healing magic since the body belonged to Taria. He tries to understand whether he truly came back to life, since, even without believing in possession, he apparently got a second chance. After thinking about this, he notices something on the ground and, when he picks it up, reads that it is a status examination form, and Taria was classified as a rank F swordsman. The MC finds this interesting, since he should take the exam again, because he will not discover anything just by sitting around. In addition, something else worries him, since there is that demon Xeon, who mentioned an ability that only 1 in 1,000 people possess, and he must find out more about it. Now, About the adventurer exam, it is an exam carried out using a very special tool that displays the adventurer's aptitude and the power that dwells within his body, whether strength, power, or endurance. A greater power dwells within every adventurer, and the classifications are a system to better understand each individual. The power proven through the exam greatly affects a person's future. He arrives at the location and imagines that he never retook the test, since his abilities never improved, and Radion was always yelling at him for wasting time on useless things. After entering the Adventurers Guild, he takes the paper with his new information and sits down to read. His current name, which belongs to the former owner of the body, is Teria. His classification is rank F, his class is healer, and his status is almost the worst possible. He also has some healing abilities, as well as prayer to the gods, but they cannot be used due to insufficient skill. He notes that his status and adventurer rank are extremely low, and does not know whether it is because of himself or the former owner of the body. However, he realizes that the class is healer, and that the spells truly are his. In addition, he pays attention to the ability that is unusable due to not being skilled enough. He knows for sure that this is the ability the demon mentioned, and that he will probably be able to use it in this new life. He moves on to the second part, the skills section, and is surprised since it is actually fairly decent, as it has a bit of everything, such as various enhancements, critical rate, automatic healing, among others. He focuses on the impact strike and the automatic shot, and clearly remembers that it is an ability that manifests mainly in classes focused on physical attacks. But in his case, he is a healer and was forced to swing his staff so much that this ability probably manifested. He continues reading about the abilities, and one of them automatically activates its effects, with the targets being the user and any allies whose names he recognizes and identifies as allies. The MC thinks about this, since he is not sure whether it is the ability the demon feared and could not understand it just from the test results, and because of that, he believes he should accept a mission to test it in practice. Suddenly, his former group enters the guild, commenting that the MC is not there either. Amira, irritated, says that the old man is terrible, since he is always running away without saying anything, and they have no idea where he went. Sotel, in his new body, imagines that this is bad, since he had completely forgotten about these people. Radion is not worried, since they will have no problem being without a useless healer, and decides which job they will take. But Shiero says she is worried, since the MC may have fainted somewhere. At that moment, the swordsman looks to the side and, after seeing the MC staring, asks what the hell a kid is staring at so much, since they are not any kind of attraction. Amira asks to leave that aside, commenting that a useless old man still left this burden at the end. They leave the guild, and the MC, after going through this ordeal, feels relieved, since his former group did not recognize him in the new body. With that in mind, he looks back at his report and decides that his name is now Teria, an adventurer of rank F from the healer class. There were the group of thugs he had met before, as well as acquaintances from the guild and his former group, and simply none of them realized that it was Sotel in that body. Thinking about this, he concludes that he can restart his life, since for a long time he had continued as an adventurer, giving up on everything. He helped for money, even if it was necessary to lower himself to others, always smiling. He decides that he will no longer have a shitty life and stands up, since he might be able to put an end to all of this at that very moment. He takes a rank E mission, which requires eliminating 30 wolves. The monster lunges at him, but he dodges. Then he prepares his ability and lands a direct hit on the monster's face, managing to finish it with just one blow. Another wolf lunges at him, but he simply continues his combo, finishing this one as well. The name of the ability he used is called Crushing Blow, and he realizes how convenient the ability is. Suddenly, his body begins to glow, and he realizes that the crushing ability has risen to level 2, increasing the critical and hit rate. More monsters appear to attack, and he gets excited, since now he can test his automatic shooting ability. He extends his hand, activating his ability, but becomes confused because nothing happened. Because of that, he is attacked, but manages to dodge and counterattack. Then, he tries to understand why his ability is not activating until he remembers something and decides to take out his ability report. And after reading once again that all his attributes have been significantly improved, he decides to test it again and takes advantage of a wolf attacking to counterattack with a punch that is enough to break all of the monster's teeth. He is surprised, since he finally understood that his enhancements make monsters of that level barely scratch him, and with auto-healing the damage he took is practically zero. In addition, he imagines that if his attack enhancement is also automatic, the benefits will be enormous, and the abilities will evolve faster. Only then does everything make sense in his head as to why the demon tried so hard to kill him, since it feared the power of that automatic ability. The MC knows that very likely, if this ability develops, he will become infinitely stronger and may be able to start everything over again. He continues reflecting that it is not that the ability had not manifested, since in truth, it had been active the whole time, and he simply did not know it. This is because, until a certain point, he fought against much stronger opponents, so he could not feel the benefits of this ability, but now he is understanding. He feels his body light as a feather, and the movements of the wolves are clear, frame by frame. He gets excited, since he finally understood that he had been receiving the benefits of this ability for so long that he did not even notice. After defeating all the wolves, he goes back to reading his report and thinks more about his automatic ability, since if he had known about it before, he would not have lived a shitty life. He feels frustrated without understanding the twist of having returned to life, but, confident, he assures that he will knock down everything in front of him and will take advantage of his second chance like a king. The next day in the city, he returns with all the resources he gathered and believes that he exaggerated a little, but he knows that this is because his results accumulated all at once, and a mission to hunt 30 wolves ended up yielding a hunt 3 times greater. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Guild, a guy is trying to flirt with the receptionist, since he believes that she has a little time. She, not knowing how to dismiss him politely, just laughs. He continues saying that he likes her cute side and asks her to stop playing hard to get. At that moment, the MC arrives, and she takes the opportunity to let go of his hand and runs off, since she needs to attend to everyone who arrives. However, she is startled when she sees the size of the bags, and the MC, seeing this reaction, asks if by any chance he did something wrong. She continues analyzing the loot, and Taria hands over the mission report. But the girl is shocked, since the mission was to hunt 30 wolves. Yet, when looking at the bags, she imagines there is much more. He apologizes and says that he accidentally hunted a bit too much. The people around, seeing this, find it funny that he says just a bit, and do not understand how Taria, who is a novice, has any ability to be capable of such a feat. The MC sees the commotion he is causing and apologizes, saying that if it is a problem, he can take everything back. But Rosa replies that it is actually incredible and congratulates him for completing the mission, since she did not imagine that a healer alone could gather so many resources. He is left speechless, and she further remarks that, at that pace, he could be promoted to rank E or perhaps to rank D. Taria thinks that it is very good to see that sincere smile and remembers his past life when he forced his own smile. This makes him imagine that it is truly amazing to be young. At that moment, an adventurer tells him to get out of the way and asks if he is a novice, since he has never seen him before. The MC replies that he is, and the guy tells him to tone it down, since he can see right through him, and points out that he is just trying to impress the receptionist, but tells him not to get his hopes up, since there would be no way for a beginner healer to gather all that material. The MC says that he did it, and the adventurer says that there is only one explanation, that he must have bought it somewhere. Taria says that he has no idea what he would gain by doing that, and the guy, not knowing what to say, just says that the MC is weak, and that he always completes his missions alone, besides having twice his arm size. Rosa finds that attitude pitiful, and Taria realizes that the guy is probably in love with her, so he is nothing more than a poor fool. The adventurer once again accuses him of fraud, but the MC denies it, since he gathered everything with his own strength. Max asks how this is possible, since the wolves have magical resistance, and a healer would have trouble because of that. The MC replies that he does not need to keep using magic, and, after taking his staff, reveals that he simply defeated the wolves with that. The adventurer bursts into laughter, clearly implying that he is much stronger than he looks. Taria replies that he is not, but knows that no matter what he says, it will not make the guy believe him. Max does not like that expression and asks what kind of look that was. He simply turns away and tells him to interpret it however he wants, since it is not like they will see each other again. The boy gets irritated by this and charges forward, telling him not to get full of himself. The MC sees this approach and takes the blow squarely to the face. However, Max feels as if his hand has broken and, in intense pain, asks what the hell he did. Teruya replies that he did nothing and that his defense enhancement probably activated on its own. In addition, his automatic skill heals his wound. Because of this, his automatic skill increases to level 2, and his self-healing, which was minor, evolves into small, and his reflex enhancement also evolves into small. The people around whisper that the boy definitely broke his fingers, but think he is pathetic, since he provoked the fight and ended up that way. Max grows more and more irritated until he draws his sword and charges forward, saying that he will never forgive him. Immediately, Teruya sees what move is coming and dodges with extreme ease. The adventurer changes the path of his sword and makes another move, but the MC had already identified that it would be a left horizontal slash, and realizes that he is able to read all movements, as if his brain and muscles were directly connected. After dodging, the guild adventurers are surprised by the evasions and mock him, saying that losing to a novice is a joke. Max cannot take so much provocation and shouts that he will kill him, but Teruya says those are very strong words for a young man and wants to see him do it. The guy makes his first attack, but the MC simply dodges. He gets irritated and attacks once more, but Teruya continues to evade with ease. However, this time, he prepares to counterattack and says that his target is also an adventurer, so there should be no resentment, and lands a powerful punch to the man's stomach, making him almost vomit from the pain and sending him flying from the impact straight into the wall. The MC is confused, since he barely put any force into the punch, and wonders if perhaps some other skill leveled up, but realizes that it was actually his rank that increased. Strength went from E to D, endurance from E to D, and so on. His healer rank also went from F to E. Suddenly, a bucket that was on the shelf falls onto the adventurosa, and his sword flies away. The others simply watch, and the MC, worried, approaches and asks if he is all right. Max looks back, and seeing everyone staring, becomes furious, gets up, and runs away from there. Teruya finds this amusing, and the other adventurers go up to him to talk and say they thought it was incredible how he put the arrogant guy in his place. He says it was nothing special. At that moment, Rosa calls out to him and thanks him for what he did, also apologizing for getting him involved. He replies that it was not her fault and asks her not to worry, since he simply did not like the guy. She says she understands and once again thanks him from the bottom of her heart. After that, he leaves the guild and resumes walking through the city. Meanwhile, he reflects that he has already died, returned to life, and in the heat of the moment embarked on a solo mission, and the day was completely insane. On the other hand, he also found it fun, since even after fighting for decades, he had never improved his skills and had given up on himself. But he believes that his new life in that body will not be bad. He does not know whether he should go to the city of Baldaria, nor does he remember if it has been 4 or 3 months since he was there. All he remembers is that he was left in a monstrous house and went through horrific moments. He did not like what happened at all, and since he was always in the same group, he lived eating only vegetables, while everyone else devoured meat. There was only one moment when Shiero gave him a small piece of meat, but he ended up getting an upset stomach. With these memories, he knows that in his current body, he will be able to eat as much as he wants. However, something crosses his mind, since he still has many questions to ask about his current situation. He arrives at his old house from before reincarnating and, excited by the second chance he was given, he prepares himself so he can leave early. He arranges his things inside and, after seeing his situation, imagines that it is like a child before a field trip. He removes the weights from his legs and admits that he is surprised, since he did not expect this trap, and the boy's body was definitely well built. In addition, he knows that he needs to arrange some clothes and has no idea where the real Teruya's house is, besides the fact that the clothes he is wearing are far too old for that body. Next, he puts a pot on the fire and begins his preparations using 7 types of medicinal herbs and seasonings, and that is theoretically toxic, but he does not know who gave it that name. The color is a bit rough, but the effectiveness is guaranteed. Suddenly, a loud crash is caused at the door, which is completely destroyed, startling the MC, since he has no idea what happened. Suddenly, a dog jumps on him, and the MC notices that it is injured, but it is as if the animal wants to say something and he does not understand what is wrong. Barely thinking about it, a black aura appears at the door, making a completely bizarre monster appear. Teria grabs the dog and dodges the attack, but while moving, he tries to understand what the hell is in front of him. He dodges the monster's attack and, after retreating, places the dog on the ground since he will need to fight. But before that, he shouts that his horrible day never ends. He notices that the dog does not stop crying, and the MC tells it not to worry since he will protect it. In addition, he holds the animal's paw and uses his angel healing, leaving the dog completely renewed. He likes the result he achieved and assures that he will protect the puppy at any cost. Suddenly, the monster attacks with its tail, and the MC blocks it with his staff. And while retreating, the monster does not stop attacking. This irritates him since his house is being destroyed for no reason, and after preparing himself, he lands a direct blow that cuts the monster in half, but within seconds it regenerates completely. The MC does not like this at all, since out of nowhere, he began to feel pain and knows that if he keeps up that pace, he will be finished. But he does not know what this sensation he is feeling is. He remembers when he dodged with the dog and the attack left a hole in the ground, but it was quite shallow, and he does not understand why the monster is holding back. While thinking about this, he receives another attack that grazes him, but immediately his self-healing activates, still with the monster's arm on his body, and this causes damage to the creature, which backs away screaming in pain. Teria considers whether those monsters are perhaps fragile against healing, but there is no time to think much, since the monster continues attacking, and as he has no time to think, he decides to counterattack with what he has. But this time, he places his healing magic into the staff, which is enough to cause severe damage to the monster, almost tearing it in half. He realizes that this way, he will achieve some results, and, therefore, begins to attack in every possible way, always imbuing the staff with fairy healing. After that, the two face each other once more, and the MC charges forward with everything, shouting that this will be his final blow, and once again, lands a direct hit, activating his angel healing, but this time completely blowing the enemy apart. He breathes a sigh of relief and goes outside to see if there are any more monsters, and realizes that they do not leave behind corpses, which is frightening. In addition, it had been decades since he had seen monsters that were weak against healing magic. He then returns inside the house and feels weak, since he apparently used too much mana. However, he also feels another sensation, as that young body is developing far too quickly, and, in fact, his abilities have leveled up once again, and he does not understand what is happening, nor whether the former owner of the body had something special. He then looks to the side and sees the dog keeping its distance. He asks it not to be afraid, but after extending his hand, the dog slaps it away and comments that apparently the boy is not Teria, accusing him of resembling him but not being him, and therefore asks what he did to Teria. The MC simply cannot believe that he is hearing a dog talk. Still irritated, the dog asks what he did with Teria, and only then does the MC realize that he is talking about the owner of that body. The dog hears this and lunges, since from what he understood, the MC stole the boy's body. Teria keeps dodging while trying to explain the situation, but the dog does not stop attacking until he lands a bite, but then feels something strange and falls to the ground. He does not understand what suddenly happened, and the dog mentions something about his stomach. The MC panics, since he did not imagine that an injury might still remain in that body, but the animal simply says that his stomach is empty. He finds the situation amusing and offers some of the food he prepared, and after the dog eats, the animal says that the food was splendid, since his strength is overflowing. The MC says that he understands, since the dog is speaking fluently, but still admits that he does not know whether it is right for dogs to eat soup. Bruce asks him not to worry, since as he had said, he is not a dog. Teria does not quite understand this, since he is definitely looking at a dog, and moreover mentions that he was bitten by him minutes earlier. The dog explains that at the time he was a little shaken and did not notice that the boy was already complete, and therefore apologizes for his rudeness. The MC says that he does not understand what that means, but the dog simply says that he will understand with time, so there is no need to worry. The MC says that he understands, but adds that he has another question, since he was curious about why the dog was with the former owner of that body, and whether he was, by any chance, a chosen child. The dog replies that it was his duty to watch over him. The MC does not fully understand all the details, but asks whether he should not be panicking, since in the end, the real Taria is dead. The dog says that it is true, but believes that perhaps this had been the boy's destiny all along, and that he even watched over Taria for 18 years, never imagining that it would end in such a miserable way. In addition, he believes that it will be his duty to guide him as the child of the prophecy. The MC sighs, since he is hearing about prophecy again, but says that he has another question because he does not know what monster that was that he faced, since he had never seen a creature like that, which on top of that was weak against healing magic. Bruce also admits that he is not sure what it was, since he was on the street looking for Taria and along the way was attacked by the monster. The MC finds it strange, since he encountered a demonic soldier, a talking dog, and a bizarre monster. The dog asks if he heard correctly when the MC mentioned demonic soldiers, and imagines that apparently they have begun to move and are already keeping an eye on the MC's power. He thinks about it, but remains silent, and soon Taria realizes that apparently he is keeping more secrets, but does not mind it. Then the MC picks up the dog and says that the misunderstanding has been cleared up, his wounds have been healed, and he has even been given plenty of soup, so it is time to go home, since he himself will have to wake up early the next day. The dog asks where he is going, and the MC says that it is none of his business, since he is enjoying his second life. Bruce refuses, since he wants to accompany him because he owes this to Taria. The MC makes it clear that he does not need a babysitter, since he is of legal age and wants to be free, but the dog keeps insisting, saying that someone who is not yet complete needs support, since the demons have begun to act. In addition, he says that he is quite useful and transforms into a giant wolf that carries the MC on his back. When the MC opens his eyes, he realizes that they are flying and can even see all the people in the city. The dog asks the MC to use him to achieve the goals he aspires to, while he continues running through the skies. The MC thinks about it, since he does not particularly like the word use, because he does not have good memories of it, but believes that he can call this a contract, since both of them can benefit from it. With that in mind, he says he accepts the offer and tells them that their first destination will be the city of Baldaria. The dog finds it interesting, since he had chosen the Flaming City. The MC also says that afterward he will go to Filianka, which is the city of the fairies, and reveals that he really likes the miniatures sold there. After all, he will be able to drink good beverages and eat juicy grilled skewers, as well as entertain himself with the city's hobbies. After all, happiness lies in simple things, and that is what he wants to recover. After arriving at the destination, they notice the bustling city, and Bruce comments that it has been a while, but the city remains lively. The MC comments that the city is nothing compared to where he used to live, and says that, in fact, he wanted to stop by Taria's house first to get some quality clothes. The dog questions whether he is joking, since time is a luxury they do not have, and even suggests using fur like he himself is wearing. Sotel replies that unfortunately, he is not an animal, so he cannot use it. They finally arrive at the tavern they were looking for. After opening the door, he notices a woman cleaning. She apologizes, saying they are closing for a temporary break. He becomes frustrated upon hearing that and says he understands, and she apologizes once more, since he seemed anxious. But unfortunately, they will not open the shop for a while. Sotel asks why, and she explains that they were unable to reach the pastures where their cattle are raised because a dragon has settled in the cave along the way. He is surprised to hear about the dragon, and she continues her explanation. After that, they return to the city, and Bruce says that the MC had the worst luck, since he barely started the journey and has already hit a dead end. He says it is true, but confidently states that he will take down the dragon that is interfering with his plans. The dog asks if he is crazy, since even for a normal dragon, the standard procedure to challenge it is to gather a rank A group. Sotel says he does not care, and shouts that impossible things only make him want to conquer even more. Bruce does not like that at all, and asks if he has a plan to win. He says it is not as if the chances are zero, since according to the information he gathered, the dragon has the unique characteristic of poison, so his healing magic is a perfect counterattack. On the other hand, he knows the real problem is how he will attack directly, and the dog asks if he is just going to swing the stick back and forth. He says it will not be that simple, since the dragon's scales are extremely tough. Bruce finds it strange, since he is speaking as if he has experience. Sotel feels embarrassed and says he has fought some normal dragons before, and although he only remembers being used as a meat shield, that does not change the fact that he faced them. The dog finds that past interesting, and he comments that he did not mention it, but he is much older than he appears, and admits that going into a game blindly is risky, but his goal is to obtain a proper weapon and armor to replace the rags he is wearing. They go to a weapon shop, and after entering, he says he is planning to hunt dragons and therefore would like a suggestion for armor. The seller does not believe the absurdity he is hearing and tells him to stop joking, since he is still in a growth phase and should be playing with the dog. Bruce does not like that at all and tries to lunge forward, since he does not consider himself a dog, but the MC picks him up and apologizes. He also says that he has enough money, so there is no need to worry. The seller sees the bag and upon opening it, is shocked, since the MC has many gold coins. He takes it in his hand to see if it is real, and after confirming it, starts treating the MC as if he were royalty, and even apologizes for how he treated him before, since he had a hectic day, and starts asking about the staff and the equipment they want, since he has a bit of everything. Sotel finds this funny and feels relieved for having spent some time hunting monsters outside the city. The seller starts showing all kinds of weapons, until one in particular catches the MC's attention, and he picks it up, asking for more explanations about it. The seller says it was an incredible choice, and that it is basically the only item made of a rare mineral discovered recently that uses etherate. He draws the sword from the sheath, and the seller explains that the mana conductivity of that mineral is several times greater than that of magical alloy. He does not hide his surprise at the aura that sword possesses, and therefore says he will take it. The seller thanks him, but the dog asks whether a healer can even wield a sword. He says he does not know for sure, since he has never held one before, but thinks it is cool to have one, and therefore will take it. The dog does not care about that, since the money is his, and he can do whatever he wants. After buying the equipment, the two continue their journey until they locate the cave. The MC approaches with his healing, since the place really is similar to the rumors, and feels relieved that his self-healing effect is constantly active. The dog agrees and asks whether he is nervous, and he replies that he is not, and that, in fact, for some reason, he is even excited. Bruce likes hearing that, since he cannot wait for the action to begin, and the two keep getting closer and closer, until Bruce comments about a legend that says that a glorious battle took place 1,000 years ago, and therefore, he wants to see this dragon hunt with his own eyes. 2 years ago, Shiera was moving at high speed since she and her team were facing a giant dragon. The MC does not waste time and goes to her to use his angel's healing. Meanwhile, Redion advances, and Amira unleashes her attacks in order to defeat that dragon, which would not yield to anything. Sotel does not like the course of the fight at all, since they will only wear themselves out, and shouts for them to retreat for now. The leader asks what kind of nonsense he is talking about, and goes toward the MC, grabs him by the clothes, since he must be too relaxed to talk nonsense, and throws him toward the dragon, telling him to be useful. Shiero cannot believe it, but Amira likes what she sees, since now Sotel is lying on the ground, and, when he looks up, sees the colossal dragon ready to devour him. However, the dragon spits venom, and immediately he uses his angel's healing and tries to dodge the attacks at all costs, drinking potions constantly. In the present, he keeps walking and remembers that he had to drink potions until he almost threw up to stay alive. But at that moment, he feels that the battle will be completely different. Thinking about that, he asks the dog if he really wants to come along, since it will be incredibly dangerous. Bruce replies that that is exactly why he wants to come along, because he does not want to make the same mistake he made with Taria. Sotel says he understands, and they continue entering the cave. After some time, the MC comments that the air is getting heavier and the dragon's mana stronger, and that if it were not for the self-healing, their bodies would have already melted. The dog becomes worried since he did not know that this was the reason they were able to enter, and he asks him not to worry, since apparently the power activates automatically, even on allies. That makes him remember the description of the ability, which includes targets recognized as allies. The dog admits to being surprised, since it seems like something incredible, and therefore wishes success on the mission. The further they go in, the more venom they find in the place. Suddenly, they stop, and the dog says they have finally arrived. No sooner does he say that, Then an attack from below almost hits the two of them, and they realize it was from the dragon, which for some reason is completely covered in venom. The MC prepares for battle as another attack comes toward him, forcing him to jump to the side. Even so, the poison flies in all directions, and he realizes that his staff is melting and that self-healing alone will not be enough. Because of this, he uses his fairy healing, and the effect is extremely strong, realizing that it is the legendary magic ring with high mana conductivity, and the gift is definitely better than he had imagined. The dragon roars with all its fury, and the MC grabs his sword and tells himself to prepare, as this is his new beginning. The dragon attacks, and he dodges. At that moment, the dog asks what exactly he plans to do, since he has never held a sword before. The MC simply advances and lands a useless strike on the dragon's tail, which leaves the dog frightened, as he is not being careful. Sotel comments that, as he thought, the sword is worthless. But this irritates Bruce, since the idiot does not even know that it is necessary to draw the sword from the scabbard before attacking. He laughs, knowing he is right, but soon becomes startled, because completely out of nowhere, the dragon spits a poisonous mist that is enough to cover the entire area. The dog, from a safe spot, shouts to him until he sees a shadow, and the MC appears unharmed, relieved because it was a close call. Bruce then says that he is surprised, because Sotel used healing magic to neutralize the dragon's breath in seconds. He says yes, and imagines that the activation speed is insane, and he realizes that even though the scabbard has melted, it is still being absorbed by his healing magic, and it is no wonder the merchant recommended that sword so highly. The dog approaches, asking if he is okay, and attacks with everything he has. The MC manages to defend, but realizes that the beast is becoming far too savage. After pushing the tail away, his body automatically makes a movement that, for some reason, crosses his mind, and he simply counterattacks as if it were automatic. This leaves the dog surprised as well as himself, since it is as if his body were remembering the movements. He then leaps and says that he has seen that move before, and because of that, he attacks with everything, managing to cut off the dragon's tail. The MC finally understands what happened, since apparently Taria's will remains alive within him. In addition, the boys' class was swordsman, and that fills in the gaps. And once again, facing the dragon, he asks the Taria within him to prepare, as they will have an enjoyable battle. The two stare at each other for a moment, and after Sotel makes a slight movement, the dragon flies in another direction, heading straight for the dog and biting down on him. Then it leaves the cave and flies into the sky. Bruce becomes irritated by this, as he is being treated like a mere creature. Because of this, he activates his ability, which makes his size grow, and the dragon is forced to let him go. The MC sees him falling in freefall and mounts the dog, as now Bruce wants to show that the skies do not belong only to the flying lizard. Sotel finds this amusing and asks if he really cannot stand being called a dog. He replies that he cannot, since he is not one, but before he can finish speaking, the dragon flies toward them. The MC, without wasting time, jumps with his sword and shouts that he wants to hear the full story of his new companion. He aims at the dragon's neck and lands the sword strike squarely, strong enough to split it in two, finally managing to kill the dragon. They go down to the ground and celebrate, since they have finally succeeded. The MC walks over to the dragon's remains, and after sitting down, keeps watching his sword, since with that new body he managed to defeat a dragon, and that is the first victory he has achieved, and also proof that Taria's life, which was taken without reason, is still etched into his body. He knows he needs to hold on to this feeling, since now he is no longer a burden or dead weight, as he managed to defeat a dragon on his own. Bruce sees him lost in thought and asks if he will be leaving soon. He replies yes, and assures that he will grow stronger so as to have no more regrets on his path. Suddenly, all his abilities were slightly enhanced, and the dog, who was looking at him, feels as if he were seeing Taria, and realizes that he must give his best with his new partner, in memory of Taria, and that he cannot afford to make mistakes. Therefore, he tells Sotel that he will guide him, and that together they will fulfill Taria's unfulfilled wish. As he says this, he imagines that he also needs to prepare himself. After that, at night, someone sees the MC with his dog through a crystal ball. He comments that, for a human, the feats were quite impressive. The demon shatters the crystal ball and, smiling, says that he was only a little irritated. After returning to the city, The tavern is opened and the owner sincerely thanks them for defeating the dragon. MC asks her not to worry, since he did not do it seeking a reward, but because he felt like it and already liked the fact that everyone had been welcoming. The attendant explains that although the cattle lost some weight, everyone is alive, and she is truly relieved. They also could not send a request to the guild, and honestly, they would definitely have needed to close the shop for good. They are surprised by the seriousness of the situation, and she once again thanks them and asks them to come back more often, since the shop's potential is much greater than what they are seeing. Sotel says he is looking forward to it, and after the shop owner returns to serving the other customers, he keeps eating, surprised by how much he has already eaten. The dog, also pleased, says that the steak is definitely delicious and asks for more. MC grants the request and simply asks him not to overeat, and with that they continue eating and enjoying themselves for much longer. After that, they resume their journey, and MC says that the next destination is the City of the Fairies, since an annual event is taking place and he wants to check it out. Bruce asks why, since people will be showing off boring magic and he sees no point in it. Sotel asks him not to be so harsh, since he is sure his dog will like it when he sees it. However, they are startled as they are almost hit by an arrow and look down, trying to understand what the hell is going on. A girl, who was on the ground, apologizes, saying she did not intend that, and MC says it is fine, and that she does not need to worry about it. She sincerely thanks them, since if they had not dodged, something terrible would have happened right after she became an adventurer. Sotel laughs at that and notices the condition of her hands. In addition, the girl says that there are many things she needs to achieve quickly, and he asks what that would be. Only then does the girl realize she is talking too much and apologizes, saying she does not want to bother them, and once again thanks them for everything having turned out well. MC thinks about it and realizes that her smile is forced, just like his was before regressing. Because of that, he asks for a second and, holding her hand, uses his fairy healing and leaves her hand as good as new. The girl cannot hide her surprise, and he asks if she is not rushing too much, since he understands the fear of not getting results, and that she probably feels like giving up, but also knows that if she pushes too hard, both body and mind will end up breaking. She, trembling, agrees with what he said, and Sotel suggests that if she takes the break he mentioned, her skill as an archer will improve a lot, and since they are heading to the city of Falarka, he believes she knows the way, and therefore asks if she could accompany them by showing the direction. She thinks about it for a moment until she agrees, since she liked the idea. The three begin to walk, and Lucy says that Melis, the princess of the fairies, had to give up the show. The dog says that they were unlucky in Baldaria first and will be again. The girl notices him barking and pets him, believing he is anxious. Only then does the MC realize that he will need to call Bruce by his real name, which is Glacius, now that a girl is in the group, even though she only understands his speech as barking. She asks if he happens to be a fan of the Lumina figures. Sotel replies that yes, since he finds the delicate mana control, the precise movements, and the resulting performance truly worthy of being called a masterpiece. In addition, he mentions that they are, above all, a source of hope. She does not understand what that means. He explains that many artists on that stage were once adventurers who had to give up. He is practically in the same situation, and to become a high-level healer, he would need to master some offensive magic. However, no matter how much he trained, he never managed to master a single attack spell. So, seeing that brilliance on stage gave him courage. Lucia comments that he says many mature things for his age and asks him not to worry, since there is no need to rush. The MC agrees and questions the exact reason why Malis had to cancel her participation. She, a bit embarrassed, reveals that in fact, Melis contracted a mysterious disease. Apparently, it is a disease that cannot be cured with normal medicines. In addition, they said that materials from a special monster are needed to create a cure. Only then does the MC connect the dots as to why Lucia had been practicing her aim so much. She says that she knows it was reckless, but she wants to do everything possible for Melis because the girl is her only and best friend. Sotel likes hearing this and asks what material is exactly needed. She explains that she needs a liver from a variant dragon. She says this and laughs, since she knows something like that is impossible. However, the MC turns around and shows the dragon liver, since with that, he will be able to save Melis. Lucia asks him to wait and simply cannot believe what she is seeing. Then they go to the city, and immediately she enters the house where her friend is. Eleanor looks to see who it is, and the archer, emotional, shows that she has the dragon liver. The MC just watches this moment. Lucia asks if that alone is really enough for the girl to get better. She replies that yes, that she will make sure she recovers well, and asks the MC if he was the one responsible for providing the dragon liver. He answers that yes, and that it was just a stroke of luck to have it. Eleanor, with a strange expression, says she understands, and the MC, who had been calm until then, feels a horrible sensation automatically, but finds it strange since he is not even in combat. Even so, everything is moving slowly, and he knows it is an increase in concentration. Eleanor passes by his side saying that she will prepare the medicine, but he becomes more and more uncomfortable with it. Lucia calls out to him and says that he does not need to worry, since Eleanor is someone she can trust, because everyone in the city loves her and calls her the magic teacher. He says that this is impressive, but still thinks that feeling was discomfort. Soon after, the teacher returns and shows the potion she made, saying that as soon as it is drunk, she will be fine instantly. However, the MC interrupts and politely asks her to say the ingredients of the medicine. Eleanor, with a smile, says that she used dragon liver, celestial spirit sand, and snow devourer, and that the rest is a secret. However, before she can give the potion, Sotel grabs her hand and says that he knows that recipe very well, since it is a lethal drug that destroys the human body. Saying this while staring at her with a frightening aura. Lucia is startled by this, and Eleanor questions what she is talking about. The archer, unconvinced, asks for explanations, and the teacher, already irritated, waves her arm and throws the liquid toward the girl, telling her to test it herself to find out what it is. Immediately, the MC jumps in front and the potion hits his face, creating a red mark instantly. Lucia screams in despair when she sees this, but he immediately creates a healing field and returns to normal within seconds. Eleanor becomes completely irritated and says that this is the reason she cannot stand healers. She tries to flee, but Bruce advances since he does not intend to let her escape. He bites the woman's arm and keeps trying to pull her. Eleanor soon realizes that this is not a normal dog, and therefore decides to resort to releasing her malicious aura to end everything. Immediately, the dog jumps back upon seeing that horrifying power, and Eleanor, after completing her transformation, introduces herself as the sixth servant of the Demon King and also says that, as thanks for defeating the precious variant dragon, she will return the favor. Sotel realizes what this is about and she confirms it, since the poisonous dragon he defeated in Baldaria was her familiar. And, as if that were not enough, he also disrupted all the preparations she made to turn Maris into her familiar. Because of this, she makes it clear that she will not forgive him. Lucia becomes confused by all this and does not understand what the hell she means by the preparations or by turning her best friend into a pet. The witch laughs at this and says that her mission is to increase the loyal servants of the Demon King. For that, she needs to make the fairy princess Maris work for her by attracting humans. Lucia finds this absurd, and Sotel questions why she would do something so horrible. Eleanor replies that the entire world belongs to the demons. That world is too good to be wasted on humans, because the water, the vegetation, everything is rich in magic. So before humans can destroy the world, the demons united with the Demon King to end everything. The MC becomes irritated by this, and she apologizes, saying she got too carried away with her speech. So without further delay, she starts attacking, forcing Sotel to dodge in all directions. She summons a water spirit that makes the MC increasingly defensive. The MC knows that to destroy that summon, he will need to break its core. So after dodging another attack, he creates an opening to deliver a precise blow, but laments it was not enough to break the core, and thus, the spirit regenerated. The demon laughs at poor Maris for having such a loser as a hero. He tells her not to talk nonsense, but the one who gets most irritated is Lucia, who with her bow aimed declares that she will never forgive her. She fires her arrow, but the water spirit gets in front. Eleanor tells her to stop, saying she finds this act of friendship very shameful. The girl keeps firing her arrows, but the spirit keeps blocking while the witch provokes more and more. Sotel tells her to calm down, but Lucia, completely furious, shouts that she will not let this slide. He shouts louder, telling her to stop, and says that, as he said before, she cannot panic because it disperses her focus and hides the true nature of things. She calms down a bit, and he tells her to remember her training. Lucia visualizes the core inside the water spirit. Then, she takes a deep breath and stays focused because her shot needs to be perfect. She keeps her focus on where the core will be, and after aiming well, she fires her arrow, which hits the core directly, making the monster explode into pieces. The two are surprised by this result, and the MC says he expected that one day she would achieve that level of precision. The dog watches from afar and wonders if the girl was really that good at shooting, but soon changes his mind, imagining that the main reason for this was Sotel, and therefore says that his ability is truly terrifying. Eleanor becomes enraged and says she now has a better idea of his power limit and advances since she is not finished yet. He prepares his staff for combat, but the demon shifts direction, crosses her arms, and summons another monster on her arm. They realize that she is actually trying to escape, and know that letting her get away would be the same as condemning Mary's to death. Because of that, he mounts Glacia and explains that to reverse the mutation, he will need the summoner's mana core, and that it requires that demon's life. At that moment, someone grabs the dog's tail, startling him, as Lucia is asking to go along. He refuses, but the MC tells her to get on quickly, so with both of them on his back, the dog realizes he has no choice and flies off in pursuit of the witch. After arriving at the location, the MC says there is nowhere to run. However, Eleanor laughs and says that they are the ones who fell into the trap. Then, from her feet, several mud monsters emerge. Sotel asks what the hell that is, and Glacia says that smell, although bad, is nostalgic. The MC asks if it is because he is a dog, and he gets irritated, saying he has said 1,000 times that he is not a dog. Sotel says he understands and tells him to get ready since a mud ball is coming toward them. He tries to deflect it, and while doing so realizes that, as expected, brute strength alone will not solve it. To make things worse, the demon also appears attacking, and he shouts for Lucia to try to knock down the fruit from the tree. She says she will try, and with her precise shot, she knocks down the fruits. He deflects the mud ball, which flies away. Then he grabs the cup on the dog, puts the fruits inside, and prepares a drink. However, he uses it to throw at the monster, making its skin harden to the point that his next attack is able to destroy it. Lucia finds this incredible, but the dog is in agony from the smell, because that is a medicine for hardening the core and would normally require proper preparation since it contains a toxic component. In other words, it smells like very foul shit. He tells Glacia to stop complaining because if he is not a dog, then he should endure the stench. And even though in agony, he says he will endure it. The MC throws that medicine onto his staff and starts attacking all the monsters, as this way he can defeat them. He also throws the cup to Lucia, who uses it on her arrow and kills the monsters with her precise shots. Meanwhile, the dog continues suffering from the rotten smell. On the other hand, Eleanor keeps summoning more and more monsters and asks if they are ready to give up. The MC asks Glacia what the next move is since his sense of smell is useless. The dog just barks, and Lucia asks if he has a plan. She asks again if he really has a plan, and he nods to confirm. She tries to understand what the hell that is, and he explains that they are probably clones, and the real body must be hidden somewhere. She thinks about this hypothesis, and then touches her forehead and says she can use appraisal magic and thus find the real body's location. Sotel shouts, asking if that is serious. But at that moment, the demon runs in and shouts that she will not let them interfere with her plans again. Her power heads toward the girl, who becomes frightened because she cannot react in time. Because of that, Glacius bites her and throws her onto his back, telling her to leave things to him. Eleanor gets irritated by this, and the MC takes the opportunity to destroy the summons in front of him. Lucia continues concentrating and keeps reciting her skill, but the dog notices the delay and asks if it will take much longer. She opens her eyes and apologizes, since she is incredibly slow at chanting, but activates her technique, which performs a complete evaluation of the battlefield. She assesses where the mud golems are and is surprised, since her ability should not have been that effective, and considers whether everything happening is thanks to Sotel's power. The MC takes advantage of this opportunity, since he found the true core of the mud golems, The witch makes it clear that she will not let her plans be ruined, but the MC dodges the attack, jumps while holding his staff, and, after letting out a loud shout, strikes directly at the core that controlled the mud golems, which is enough to destroy it. With that, all the monsters are defeated, and Eleanor cannot believe it, since a simple boy in front of her ended her summons. Bruce also approaches and warns that now she will not be able to escape. The demon does not like the situation at all, and says that apparently she has no other choice. She makes her nails grow and stabs them into her own leg. Sotel does not like this at all, since at first she starts feeling intense pain until she begins screaming, entering a state of fury. Glacia shouts to be careful, but at that same instant she appears attacking the MC, who is forced to block the attacks with his staff. The two continue fighting, and Sotel stays on the defensive against her speed in her fury state. He makes it clear that brute force is not everything, and, because of that, holds an item in his hand, covers it with his angelic healing, and says he will use the true core of the mud golem. With that said, he throws this enchanted core, which hits her stomach and explodes, creating a curtain of smoke. Sotel knows that this will temporarily revive her body, and that he can use that against her, so with his sword, he cuts the witch in half, since the moment she abandoned her intelligence was when she lost. She cannot believe she was defeated, since that strike split her body in two. The MC watches, as does Lucia, since he does not know if he truly won, even while seeing the witch's defeated body on the ground. A core appears from the body, and only then does the girl realize she can celebrate, and when asking about Maris, she feels her body getting weak until she falls. But the MC catches her before she hits the ground and says she did a great job. They decide to return to the city, and while walking, Glacia says that apparently they cannot do anything about the mud. But the worst part is that it smells terrible. The MC looks at his staff and thinks that if he had purification magic, he could solve this. And upon updating his magic, he realizes that he actually has that power, since all the mud on their bodies has been removed. They laugh, since out of nowhere another ability evolved. Now his magic, which was rank F, became rank E just like his spirit. His abilities also leveled up. After all these events, the day of the festival arrives, and the performances begin, with the artists performing various dances that leave Lucia amazed at how incredible they are. Next, another participant enters the arena and, full of confidence, activates her fire ability and performs her dances using that element. The MC also finds the performance incredible, both in colors and in sound and emotion in the dance. Every part of the expression is complete. He even starts to cry, since he finds everything perfect, as if the performance were perfectly calculated. He continues praising it using every possible adjective, and Glacius tells him not to get carried away, since he is getting a bit too excited. Besides that, he thinks the teams are only doing the basics, competing against each other. Lucia agrees and asks if he found a way to cool off. He shows the mug on his arm, and she asks if it is not that toxic liquid used to prepare medicine, since she found it insanely effective. He replies that although it is not a poison, it has a horrible appearance and is basically a secret remedy passed down in his clan. She thinks about it and pats his head, since no matter how she sees him, she still thinks he is a cute little dog. Then she looks ahead, since the next participant is her friend. The girl concentrates and, using her ice magic, begins to dance calmly, using all her charm in the performance. The ice takes over the arena, and Lucia is extremely happy since she finds it beautiful. The MC feels happy seeing this scene, since this time he truly managed to save someone. While thinking about this, he suddenly sees himself in a dark forest, and an entity stands in front of him telling him to run. However, that appearance was strange, like a demonic tree. Only then does he wake up startled and questions what the hell that was that he saw. He starts sweating cold without understanding, and, meanwhile, Glacius stares at him. After the performances end, everyone leaves the arena, including the MC and Lucia. She asks them to go meet Maris later. At that moment, someone appears calling the MC Taria, the former owner of that body. He turns to see who it is, and realizes it is a gray-haired man. Sotel asks what he is doing there, and the man, confused, asks what he is doing in that place, and more importantly, why he has not responded to the letters. He does not know what to answer, and Lucia asks Sotel if he knows the man. Astil gets confused by the name Sotel, and the MC explains that it is just a nickname and apologizes for not keeping in touch. He says it is fine and mentions that he finally became a Lumina figure player and that his magic is very flashy. Sotel says he understands and asks if his parents are doing well. The man changes his expression for a split second and smiles again, saying that everyone is doing very well, but that they still will not give him the position of village chief. The MC looks closely at his friend's expression and has a vision of demons attacking a couple. He comments that that is the demon's raid. Lucia gets confused by that comment, and Sotel asks his friend if he is returning to the village. He answers that yes, since he intends to go back once, and the MC asks to go back together. Once again, the boy changes his expression and says yes. They then continue their journey, and Astil asks if he is still with the dog. Sotel answers that yes, since Glacius has been accompanying him since his family died. The man says he understands and asks about the girl who is also accompanying him and whether he is finally using all his charm. He answers that he does not have that kind of relationship with Lucia. The boy tells him to relax, since he heard what he did for Maris, the fairy princess, and thought it was really cool that he saved her like that. While the two keep talking, Lucia comments that it is surprising how much Sotel laughs, and even the way he speaks seems a bit childish. The dog agrees but says that until a few months ago he was like that. She does not believe it and starts thinking about how long Glacius has been with him. The dog says that since the MC was 5 years old, he has been watching over him, even before that, because he was born with a mission. At the time, he was just immature and did not understand humans. Because of his own arrogance, Sotel lost his parents. Lucia feels bad thinking about that, and about how much the MC must have suffered going through all of that. Glacius says yes, and adds that they lived together for a while, and he used to comfort him, as well as scold him sometimes. While telling all this, Lucia places her hand on his head, and the dog asks what she is doing. She says she did it because it seemed like he was about to cry. She also said that she always thought Sotel carried something within himself, and that, sometimes, when looking at him from afar, it was as if he were distant, and apparently, with the dog, it is the same thing. He is left speechless, and she goes on to say that in truth, she decided to follow because she was worried about Sotel, but she also cannot leave him alone. That said, they continue traveling for a while, and already near the village, the MC comments that the place is kinda quiet. Astil agrees and asks if he remembers when they fell into the well and got scolded. The MC says he remembers, and that his father's punch hurt quite a bit. At that moment, the boy changes his expression and says they have already come far enough, and therefore, he should not be too surprised. He opens the door, and after the two enter, Sotel is startled since there are demonic trees inside. Astil says he understands the surprise, since it is always shocking. The MC asks when this happened, and he explains that they were attacked by Absan. Sotel knows that he is the one who turns people into trees and then kills them. Astil says yes, since his parents ended up like that after protecting Lit. Both his father and his mother ended up that way. The MC places his hand on them in their tree form, and, after concentrating for a bit, feels that he might be able to do something. His friend says that his parents are admirable for protecting the village. The MC agrees, but asks him not to be so serious. He does not understand why, and Sotel says that the two of them are not dead yet. Astil does not think that is possible, since even if they are not dead, there is nothing that can be done. The MC explains that this is called arborification and is a condition in which the body turns into wood due to poison, and the progression is at an incredible 80%, and he himself would be able to cure them. His friend asks if that is serious and when he learned that. The MC dodges the question and asks them to focus on what matters, as they need to hurry. They go to a cave, and the MC, upon spotting a slime, kills it. Glacia follows along and, curious, asks who exactly Sotel is, since he has so much knowledge of healing. This is because he knows that it is true that arborification can be cured using the Slime Queen, since her magical fluid is very effective for that, but he cannot imagine where he learned it. In addition, he is also observing the sword technique he is using, as well as the way he is wielding it. That is because it is exactly how Taria used to wield it, but he believes he is just overthinking. After a while, they go deep enough. At that moment, a slime attacks from above, but the dog is fast enough to bite it without even the MC noticing. Glasha says that he cannot remain useless forever, and they continue advancing into the cave. The MC takes the opportunity to ask if he has ever been there with Teria. The dog is surprised that he figured that out, and he says that since he arrived in the village and even before that, when he met Astil, all his senses and memories of Teria awakened and he feels it flowing through his body. At that moment, another slime flies at him, and he demonstrates that even then, it is as if his body swings the sword on its own. Glacia says that, in the past, he was in the cave with Teria, and it was a terrible time. That is because the boy was clumsy, and despite having good potential, did not make good use of it, and they were always chased by slimes until nightfall for days. At that moment, another monster appears, and the MC uses the skill Slash, and only then realizes that he actually gained this new skill, which has a critical rate of 20%. The dog explains that the boy learned various skills in that place, and the MC comments that apparently Slash is one of the skills that Teria acquired. Glacia says he does not recommend that training method. At that moment, the MC senses something strange, since suddenly some rocks begin to fall, and looking up, he shouts for them to get out, because the cave is collapsing out of nowhere. After running for a while, a huge slime falls on them, and immediately, Sotel uses his healing skill and asks if he is okay. The slime starts forming in front of him and reaches the point of petrifying a nearby snake. He prepares himself, since the boss has finally appeared, and shouts that the moment has finally come. He charges forward, and the boss, despite being weak, dodges his first attack. He positions himself again, and, knowing that the monster is very naive, lands a direct blow that is enough to cut the boss in two. In addition, he evolved the A/Slash skill to level 2. The MC goes to the magical slime and takes some of that liquid to make the potion. Meanwhile, in the village, Astil asks why Lucia decided to follow them. She stays silent for a moment and says that the main reason is to repay her debt. He asks if she is referring to the fairy princess. Lucia confirms, since Myris is an irreplaceable friend. Because of that, she wanted to help Sotel in any way she could. He says he understands and comments that the MC is indeed quite charming. She laughs at that and admits that she is a bit jealous of their relationship. Astil asks if she is serious and, after getting her attention, says that he actually feels so much jealousy that he could kill him. She is startled by that, and he explains that 8 years ago, the MC's parents were killed by Apsan, who rules the village. And when he saw him crying alone as the only survivor, only one thing crossed his mind. It served him right. That was all he could think. And even considering the MC a great childhood friend, he could not stop thinking that and believes he should have shared that pain. But at that moment, the only thing he thought was that he felt disgusted by it. Lucia becomes even more frightened until the MC appears, apologizing for the delay but assures that now he will be able to save his friend's mother and father. However, he senses the heavy atmosphere and asks if something is wrong. Astil replies that everything is fine and asks if he can really return them to normal. Sotel says yes, while Lucia just watches silently, since the two seem so close. With the potion ready, the MC goes to the tree and puts some of the purified slime liquid into its mouth until the transformation starts to fade and the boy's father returns to normal. Then he goes to the other tree and, after doing the same, the boy's mother also returns to normal. However, this time it does not go as smoothly as the woman starts screaming and a red slime begins to come out of her mouth. This leaves all three of them shocked, as the red slime becomes more and more intense until it starts to float, and a kind of vampire emerges from within it, asking why the two are acting like friends with each other. They do not understand what is going on until this being stops in front of Astil and grabs his mouth. Then it says that they went through many problems, and lifting the boy, it shouts that it took a long time to cultivate all that hatred. Astil finally understands what is happening until the MC cuts that arm in half with a single attack. The boy is surprised, since his arm was cut so easily. Sotel attacks once more, since he finally found that hidden monster, and tells Apsan that he will finally eliminate him. Apsan questions why he is acting so defiantly, since as far as he remembers, he lived as a coward who could not even look an opponent in the eyes. The MC deflects the attacks and realizes that it was actually acid. In any case, he heals himself instantly. Absan is startled upon seeing this. And Sotel says it's a shame since he is no longer the same cowardly boy from before. Absan comments that it's a shame since humans are really troublesome when they rebel. He also says that when others do whatever they want, he himself is the one who gets scolded. So once again, he fires off his attacks, wanting him to get hurt enough to start behaving. The MC prepares himself and deflects those demonic circles. Lucia is startled since one of those attacks passed very close to her, and she asks if that is the demon of the village. Sotel says no, since that thing is not a demon. Absan is surprised and asks where he got the nonsense of saying that he himself is not a demon. Then, once again, he attacks, and the MC once again defends himself. Next, he counterattacks, putting pressure on the little devil, and says the reason is simple, since demons possess magical power that surpasses everything. Therefore, there is no way the afforestation could be caused by the power of a demon. Then, he lands a kick and says that being healed by a medicine made by the Slime Queen is something different. To prove this, he cuts his opponent in half and says that if it were real, it would need a magical core, like it was with Eleanor. Absan says he understands and warns that in that case he won't need to hold back, since even if he is not a demon, he is more than strong enough. He says this while his body had already regenerated. Then he attacks again, but the MC deflects the attack, which returns toward him, tearing off the enemy's arm. However, with his absurd regeneration, he returns to normal, and the battle continues frenetically. Lucia decides to use her appraisal. She realizes that the little boy has extremely strong molecular bonds, and that to break them, she will need an attack that uses light as a catalyst. Knowing this, she shouts to Astil and asks him, please, to lend the magical sword to Sotel, since as far as she knows, his magic is of light. He says he can, but he is hesitant. She shouts in his ear and asks if the MC isn't his childhood friend. He says he's not sure, and she scolds him, saying they obviously are, and since he has important people in his life, she wants to know if he really doesn't care about that. She says that at first she felt jealous of Maris. After all, she was a direct and strong girl, and being by her side made her feel inferior in comparison. Then she says, that doesn't change the fact that she loves Marius from the bottom of her heart, and that's how Sotel should be with him. Astil thinks about it and remembers the two of them in childhood, and how they would get scolded whenever they caused trouble. But even so, they were always laughing and having fun together. In his memory, Taria was always happy, so he fills himself with confidence and, using his ability, casts light magic onto the MC's sword, who is surprised upon seeing that power. Astil shouts for him to finish the monster, and he thanks him for the help. Absan also attacks since he won't just stand there waiting, but the MC, after dodging all the attacks, ends up unleashing his level 2 slash skill, which hits the monster head-on to the point that Absan realizes that this time he is seriously screwed. That's all, folks. If you enjoy the video, subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks.